and welcome back to our Medically Speaking webinars on this GBC platform. It's an important topic today, and I welcome you, and hopefully it's the whole family today sitting and watching, because I think it's a topic that's very important for the whole family actually. Before we start and before I introduce my guests, maybe let us open in the word of prayer. Father God Almighty, we just want to thank you once again for the opportunity to come on this platform, my God, to share information, Father, that is meant to change and impact people's lives. We just want to thank you, my God, in advance for this session. We pray blessings over our panelists, my God. We pray blessings over our leaders, my God, our bishop and our mama bishop, for being the visionaries that have allowed us to create a platform like this, mighty God. We pray against any connectivity issues, and we thank you in advance for an amazing session. We give you all honor and all glory. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. So thank you so very much. I'm going to introduce our panelists, the first one being Kate Farina. So thank you so much, Kate, for joining us. Kate is the CEO of Smartphone Free Childhood SA. And she'll tell you more about what this organization is about and all the amazing work that they are doing. And I'm also joined by our resident pediatrician, Dr. Toba, Dr. Bushe Toba, who's a GBC doctor herself. We are hoping that we may have an additional person who will bring some insights from the classroom, but if connectivity does not allow, we will probably just invite her for part 2 of our discussion. So I think part 1 is really just unpacking what this topic is about. So I think you will all know that I think 80% of the global population has got smartphones. And these smartphones are carried by children as, 2-year-olds are playing on smartphones, and to the old gogos and old mkulus. But they don't come with, they come with some problems that we're going to unpack today. And it's really about what the right age is for us to start exposing our children to smartphones. And I think Kate will touch on, some of the thinking around, the use of smartphones, thinking about how we're so protective of our children from the physical world, but we allow them to wander into this, digital world. So we'll speak about those things. And I think really I would invite you to engage, share your thoughts as well as we go about. We'll incorporate your questions and your comments into the discussion. So before then we go any further, I'm going to invite Kate to just share briefly about what Smartphone Free Childhood SA is about, and why did they come up with this initiative, and what the initiative is meant to do in our setting. So thank you so much, Kate, for joining us. We don't take this for granted. We know, you've sacrificed your time to be with us, and we appreciate you a lot.
Thank you. And actually the pleasure and the privilege is mine. So thank you everybody who's also joining us this afternoon or this beautiful evening anywhere in Joburg. We've got at least some lovely sunshine. And thank you for having me and being able to talk about this incredibly important topic that is really, really close to my heart. Let me start with me personally. So I've been in the online safety world for about 10 years. I started my journey when my children were still young, and listening to a lot of talks, which were really scary, left me feeling very anxious, not knowing what to do. And so I started an organization called Be in Touch, which was about upskilling parents to help other parents to know how to approach this, how to manage our children's devices, how to make them safer, set the right settings, turn things on, turn things off. My eldest is now 18, and it's been a very personal journey for me. Of course, my own children have been my, guinea pigs on this ride. And the one thing that I can say from my experience as a mum of teenagers who are now, almost heading off into the big world, is that it is virtually impossible for a parent to keep their children safe, completely safe on any smart device, be it an iPad, be it a smartphone, be it a gaming device, anything that is connected to the internet. we do not have eyes everywhere. We're not octopuses that can, our tentacles reach everywhere. It is virtually impossible. And that's what I need parents to understand, is that there is no safe smart device. And what this organization is about, we're one of, I don't know, almost 50 chapters now globally. We started 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, off the back of Smartphone Free Childhood UK. And that was really just a couple of mums in a WhatsApp group starting to say, mums of young kids saying, we're looking at what's happening to this past generation, and we can't believe this is the future for our children. That children are spending 7, 8, 9 hours a day on smartphones, that family time is being eroded, that they are growing up without these very crucial interpersonal skills that they have to learn in order to become fully functional adults. Surely this can't be the future for our children. And this WhatsApp just took legs of its own. And before they knew it, they had started this movement, which they called Smartphone Free Childhood. So that was in the beginning of 2024. We reached out to them, myself and a couple of other co-founders here in South Africa. We said, we love what we're doing. Can we share? They were overwhelmed. They said, feel free, use the logo, use the name, use some of the resources, but we don't have, we'd never expected this journey. We're trying to figure out what we should do for the UK. So that's how the journey was born in South Africa, completely volunteer run. We are still volunteer run today. We are an NPC. We've got our PBO certificate. We very much need funding and support, but we understand that we are, a voice among many other voices of need in this country of ours. But really what we believe is that we have a new way of looking at things. We bring hope to parents who are currently sitting in dark holes, dark tunnels of anxiety and real concern about what's happening to their children once they get access to the online world. So our foundation, our movement is really premised on the research that's now come out from the last 15, 16 years since the iPhone was first launched, with what has happened to our children as these smartphones got ever smarter and could host ever smarter apps and games, which are fueled by ever smarter algorithms. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that, the research from experts like Dr. Jonathan Haidt, you may have heard of him. You may have heard the research that he published, The Anxious Generation, the book that he published in 2024. Jean Twenge, Dr. Jean Twenge, another researcher in the area. But what they are really saying to us is that we've got to look at pivots and shifts if we really want to learn from what's happened. And this downward slide towards detrimental mental health impacts on our children, we've got to think about, some key things. And that's the shift that I'd like to talk about tonight, that we are founded on, and how parents can come together and we can be more mindful, intentional about the choices we're making for our children. And also that our schools can be more mindful, intentional about how we are supplementing, because I want to use that word supplementing, not replacing, how we supplement education with smart tech, particularly in primary schools. So that's what I'd like to talk tonight is about our shifts. And I guess we're going to get into those a little bit more.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I mean, what we're seeing though, maybe just to share a bit, I mean, we saw Australia being one of the first countries to lead the movement now in terms of banning social media in social media use in children younger than the ages of 16. And I've seen now that there's more data coming from Europe where more countries are coming on board saying we also want to make a difference. Maybe do you want to share a bit about where the globe is going in this space?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, early 2024, when this discussion was starting and all the research was coming out, which showed very strong correlations between early access to smartphones, because of course, why smartphones? Well, they become that 24/7 accessory in a child's pocket. They're also that dopamine fixer, if you will, or that easy boredom buster. So instead of a child, when they're feeling bored, or naturally into adolescence, when they are supposed to, the dopamine itch that they get, it's supposed to be driving them to new experiences, thrills and spills and learning new life skills. Of course, now what they do is they just simply reach in their pocket and they've got a dopamine fix right here, and they don't have to look any further. They don't have to go speak to anyone. They don't have to go and do anything to get that fix that they need. And so that's why the focus is really on a smartphone, because it becomes that child's 24 accessory. And so what this movement was saying, what the research was saying, is that we need to realize that smartphones are not for children, and that we need to think about delaying smartphones at least until high school. Look, my prediction, maybe I'm going to be proven right, maybe wrong. My prediction is we're going to look in the next 5 years and we're going to say, in fact, smartphones themselves should have an age restriction. One of the experts I work with in the area, Brad Huddleston, you might know him. He works a lot with the Catholic fraternity. He reckons we shouldn't actually get smartphones before 25 because, Nolo, you would know well about prefrontal cortex development. So let's just leave that there. If we think waiting till 16 to actually get a smartphone is bad, let's think about what 25. That's actually when I got my first phone, by the way. You can guess my age from that. So we're talking about delaying a smartphone if we can till high school. But of course, once you've given your child a smartphone, what else does a teen use a smartphone for other than now social media? Because that becomes this very natural form of communication. Doesn't mean that it's an important form of communication. It means that it's become an easy and kind of normalized part of our culture. Bukle, who's our pediatrician, I'm going to, definitely want to probe a little bit more around that with her. So what countries have started looking at is that we need an age restriction because it's impossible for a parent to monitor a child's device, stop a child from downloading social media apps, which themselves on the stores also say 13. And why? Because they are getting around US data, very antiquated US data privacy laws, which stop those platforms from mining the data of under 13s. There's nothing to do with the age appropriateness. In fact, there's no body like we have in the film and media industry. There's no body that's sitting and actually regulating the appropriate age of apps that are put on the app stores. So that's why countries have started now implementing, and Australia was the first to go. And we love their trailblazing initiative. The NGOs, our counterparts behind the legislation in Australia, actually fought very hard for an 18 plus rating. Australia decided to start with 16 plus, and at least it is somewhere. It's something better than what we currently have. And of course, we're seeing that now being taken up by many countries in Europe are signaling that, as well as Malaysia and Indonesia. So, but we'll still have this gap between when if you do try to delay or giving your child a smartphone into high school, that's going to be around 13, 14. We still got this gap until 16 that we have to try and hold the fort. So it's still an incredibly difficult time. We need the big tech to come into the arena with the technology that they actually do have and put the proper age gating and age verification process in place. So, eventually, in that age gap, we will have a smartphone which maybe has GPS ability and, it has, because every parent wants location tracking. Every parent wants to be able to call and be able to message their child, but not every parent wants their child to be on social media from grade 8.
Yeah. No. I think I'm in that camp that says maybe anything before 25, because we look at the mental health impact of smartphones on even the university students. So I think we'll maybe speak more about that. Maybe let me bring Dr. Toba into the conversation. I think from a clinician's point of view, what is the impact? I think Kate has already just given us a little bit of insights into what the issues could be, but from a clinician's point of view, why should we be having this conversation today?
Evening, and thank you for the platform. I think the first thing that we need to categorize the impact of social media. I will start, since I'm a pediatrician, I'll start from the small babies, toddlers, because we find children over a year already being given smartphones and they're sitting and pricking and going through. They can actually, if you see a 2-year-old, they can actually go through a smartphone. They know how to actually use it and move their finger to access information. They're starting to learn how to use it and things like that. So if we think about the different categories, I'll start from a small child. Children less than 5, we are finding more learning problems in that speech development is a problem. They are not able to use language as we are supposed to, because they are watching social media, but they're not engaging in language, in valuable language, because social learning language, you need to be speaking, and most people are on their phones. You find that the whole family is on their phone. They're not talking to each other. And so you find learning problems starting from early. We are seeing more children with speech development problems. That's the first thing that we are seeing. They're actually being able to concentrate and have enough span, because social media, as they are moving through the content, they're actually not spending time. So we're finding more and more that the more we are on our phone, we are unable to read longer and stay in a contextual environment, because we now our attention span is very short. So you will find that you are watching your TV and then you are on your phone and doing things like that. But that actually shortens our attention span, and that has impact on the classroom, because you expect children now to concentrate and be in the classroom, but actually their attention is diverted. The other thing we talk about, which is a big issue in the adolescents now, is the body image, how they look after themselves, what do they see, what they want to look like. And suicide is a big issue, because as we know, smartphones now have gone into AI showing them how to commit successful suicide. There's a case right now going on that is exactly about that. And we find that I mean, last week, the ruling in Australia just showed how the impact of smartphones can be on mental health. So those are the things that we can talk about. It's the learning issues, it's the mental health issues, is social skills. We are used to, when we sit, we talk to each other. Children are not doing that now. They are just on their phones, so they're not learning social skills, what it is to be like in an environment and talk to people, how to carry yourself, how to manage stress, how to interact with different situations and actually come out of those situations, which are all important life skills that we need to learn. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. I think it just highlights the importance really of having this conversation. I know we do have Lindsay on the line, but she's been struggling with connectivity. Lindsay, I don't know if you are able to just come on and just share your experience just now from a learning point of view in the classroom. What is the impact of this early smartphone use? Okay, if Lindsay is not happy, unable to come on, I mean, Kate, you have experience working with schools in this space. Can you share some of the insights coming from the schools, around the early use of smartphones?
Yeah, and I was just going to add to something that Bukhli was saying just now with, what she's seeing, how young she's seeing kids with who are already, scrolling, already had access to phones. I was chatting as well to a pediatrician who, and this might resonate with you, Bukhli, who was getting questions from parents with young children, under 6 months, who had bought or looking at one of those jolly jumpers, those those things that you put under the arch of the door, and you put the child in and it jumps around. They had found one that came with a placeholder for a tablet, and this parent's question was, what apps do you recommend that I download? And it this, and it's really because as the parents, we're not being given the guidance. We're not being given. It's just like we're being sucked into this this river, and off we go with everybody else, and we feel like somehow we've got to help our children get ahead. And I know when my 18-year-old was young, there was something called Little Einstein, but those days they were CDs and they were being sold by that big Baby City. And I also sort of felt, I must be putting these CDs on for my child, because clearly this is, and I think we're just not getting enough information. And I think feedback from teachers, and I was, hoping that Lindsay could give us some more info, Associated Christian Schools International. And the teachers there were telling me, there were some early childhood development teachers there were saying that they are already seeing in pre-primary school, so that's your 2s, 3s, and your 4s or 5s, that those children have their own access to their own phones already. And that parents, and sometimes it's our grandparents, think that we are doing these children a favor, that we are helping these children to get ahead, that they're going to get some kind of a head start. Perhaps sometimes we also feel that, maybe it's a sign of our success that we can also gift our children these devices. And we don't actually realize the harm, because the algorithms are showing us a very different view. We are getting, maybe Gogo's getting, crocheting patterns or cooking recipes. We're not getting shown what the children get shown very quickly. And this is something that I think we just have to realize, is that it's okay to delay. It's okay to be part of this movement. In fact, we are doing our children the very best service we can. We're actually future-proofing our children. If we get a hold of this research, we understand it. I see we've got some people online who are saying that it's a very easy read. There's lots of podcasts actually online. Trevor Noah did a brilliant interview. Oprah's done a brilliant interview with Jonathan Haidt. But we've got to understand what the research is saying and make these decisions, because all of us, I know, as parents and as grandparents, and in whatever role we are as a caregiver for children, we all want the very best for our children. And I just want everybody here tonight to hear and understand that giving a smart device to a child is probably the very worst thing that we can give our child. It's the very, very worst thing. We actually cannot ever understand the harms that we're doing to them, what they're going to see, what they're going to be exposed to, and that there is very little we can do about that to stop that from happening.
Yeah. And I think, Kate, the scary part, like you're saying, is that we don't even know half what they of the stuff that they're exposed to. And for me, that's why I'm saying, up till there are, young adults in the university space, we know the mental health issues, we know the suicide rates, we know the depression and anxiety rates. And I think with social media, the that desire for them to be accepted by others, that they value their likes from strangers. It's strangers who are supposed to be liking whatever they are doing, and it is quite harmful. I see Lindsay, I just want to check if you are able to come in here.
Afternoon, ladies. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Lindsay. We're
Okay,
sorry that we can't
great,
see you, but I think we'll take you even with your video off. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think just my little technical difficulties is also something to reflect on, especially in this world where we rely on connectivity so much.
Yeah.
And what does that actually do to us at the end of the day? But I think, Doc, I'll just come in, and I think Kate also mentioned that in relation to the experience of teachers on the ground. And I think one of the biggest issues that we're facing at the moment is teachers having to essentially be as entertaining as a smart device. And that is something very difficult to have to be put up against, if I could call it that, because what you're finding is teachers are constantly having to reflect and adjust to ensure that the content that they are delivering is matching up with the, how can I put it, the fast pace of smart devices, of social media, of, all these streaming platforms. And what does that do, firstly, to the teacher as well as to the learner? And, there's a case that is just going on now at the moment in Brazil, where a lot of the schools have banned smart devices from school, and not even just at a primary school level, but even for high school, because I think Kate also mentioned it, the issue of, the attention span of a learner, what does that do in a classroom when a child is constantly thinking about, has someone responded to my text? Has someone liked my post on Instagram? Has someone sent me a Snapchat or whatever it is? And that takes away from the attention span of the learner. And what that is doing is, especially in classes where you need creativity, where you need kids to be thinking, outside of the box, but also bringing in different ideas, being critical thinkers. It's not just taking something at face value, but actually interrogating. And that is something that we're finding really difficult. But also, I think in terms of the mental health, I know you were speaking about that in terms of how difficult it is for a learner who is 11, 12 years old, and there is so much feedback into their lives through our smart devices. And I think all of us, when we were younger, we had our immediate family, our close friends who were, oh, I don't like your hairstyle, or I don't like your outfit. But imagine a child who has so many people who have access to them. And that is something that is so difficult for a child who doesn't have the tools. They don't know how to deal with that feedback. And now we are constantly giving it to them, and they don't have the maturity or the emotional stability to be able to deal with all of that information. And especially because majority of what they are getting is negative feedback.
Yeah, sure. Lindsay, I've always joked with some friends of mine and even my colleagues, and I say, when we grew up, if there was a bully at school, you see them at school, you go home, you'll see the bully next day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Today, the bully is in your room.
Follows you.
So there isn't time for you to be bully free, basically. So, which is why we've seen kids commit suicide, and it's because, I mean, the content sometimes that is exposed to others. So you could be, doing something in Durban, but the whole world will know in 2 seconds what you did in Durban.
Exactly.
So it and I mean, with the advent of AI now, where things can be manipulated, the amount of harm that our kids are going to go through. I mean, it's harmful even for people who are relatively matured. We are adults
Yeah.
ourselves. Some of the content can be quite harmful even to us. But if you think about the under 25s whose brain function has not fully developed, what it does to them, it's quite scary. I was also sharing that, we use platforms like Facebook, we use platforms like YouTube for our prayers, By
Yeah.
the time you log on and you're trying to get to prayer, the amount of distraction, I mean, you see so many other things, and you're like, okay, I was here for prayer, but they've exposed so many things. Imagine if you're a child, even if you were trying to use the device just to go and view maybe a video that is educational, but before you get to that educational content, there is so much else that has been exposed to you, and then you end up scrolling from here to there, and there isn't even a way of, I mean, I see there are some parents who are saying maybe there are certain apps or whatever softwares that can be used to try and monitor, but there is inappropriate content. Kate, tell us, there's inappropriate content there. There's sexual content that's available to our kids to see.
Yeah, do you want me to comment on that?
Yes, please.
There's
Please.
some amazing questions coming in and comments. I mean, we've got so much to talk about. So I can just say that, as an expert in this field, and I have trialed, as I said earlier, my children have been guinea pigs. So I have trialed just about every free parental control app and every paid one. And there is no safe way to give your child access. So you can do the best you can. And there are some that, they're the paid for ones that do give you alerts and do give you that chance to be able to step in when you need to. But in all cases, the harm is done. The visuals have been seen, the video has been, engraved on their brains already. The cyberbullying has already been, tattooed on their hearts. This is all, it's all harm that's already been done. And that's, it gets compounded, and very often our children are not talking to us. They will talk easier to their peers. That's a fact. That's a fact of having teens, is that it's hard. We were all teens once. We know this. But Nolo, like you said, we were teens in an era where we could go home. There was a cooling off period, and if we were the aggressor, we there was a cooling off period. We could rethink about what we might have said, but so could if we were the victim, we could also just regroup and regather and maybe think about how we were going to handle it the next day. Now they've got absolutely no chance, because it is 24/7. And one of the things that I really would like to talk about, because it's come up in the chat around sleep, is that stats that we've got show that the majority of our children are allowed their devices in their room overnight. Most of them do not have any parental controls, and there is no settings on those phones that are turning them off. So and exactly what Lindsay said was probably saying, what our pediatricians are saying, and what I'm seeing on the chat that's coming through, is our children are incredibly sleep deprived, this generation, which of course, if you look at the holy trio of good mental health, it's sleep, nutrition and exercise. We have got to get devices out of our children's rooms at night. If we do nothing else, and if our parents who are online tonight do nothing else tonight, it's to start that habit. And your children will fight against it, and they'll say what everyone else is allowed to, and that is fine. Go and talk to other parents. Get everybody on this bandwagon. We have to get those devices out of rooms at night as the first step. So there's some questions around peer pressure, around what do we do. We're going to talk to that just now as solutions just now. But I think it's absolutely critical. There is no safe way to manage those devices. And when they're in the hands of tired brains at night making bad choices, we've got this perfect storm that they are not able to handle. They are just too young. Even I don't think I can handle, being in my 50s. It's very hard not to crack back on that device. It's very hard just to put it, that email that you have to put in the drawer overnight, because the next day it might look very different, when you're in the thick of the emotion.
So it's the content, it's the amount of time they spend consuming this content, because like we say, these algorithms, you just keep going, you can't stop. And I think
about missed opportunities.
We spoke about sleep. Yes, Kate. No, finish, please.
No, let's talk about sleep. That is one of the missed opportunities. And I think then we have to talk about, if your child is on, which average teen is now, 7 to 9 hours a day, if they're on their phone for that long, what are they not getting to? Because we only have 24 hours. God has only given us 24 hours. We cannot, even AI can't make us more time. So what are our children missing out on? Because, there was a comment here about, they're losing that ability to communicate. And connectivity is not equating to connection. They are missing out on this human connection, family time, friends time, all those valuable interpersonal skills that you can only learn by looking into somebody's eyes, learning body language, learning the give and take of a normal relationship. You don't get that over a screen. So all of those skills our teens are missing out on if they're spending that amount of time on their phones.
Yeah, and there's this other aspect. Maybe Buhle, you can come in here, because we spoke about sleep, we spoke about mental health, but there's also the physical inactivity, because just sitting and scrolling, there isn't much else that you're doing and in fact you exercise your mouth and your fingers. That's all you're doing. And what does that do in terms of physical health?
I think, Nolu, the first thing that we mustn't overlook when we're talking about this is, firstly, they are meant to be addictive. If you have followed all the studies and everything and the cases that are around the lawsuits right now, we know that now all these social media platforms are meant to be addictive. Now, as parents, we tell our children, do not smoke, do not drink. And we have cautioned our children against all of this. Don't drink and drive. But we have not conscientized our children to saying, actually, now the social media is a drug. It's the new dopamine fix that our children are getting. And there is somebody who's making sure that they are going to get this fix and to continue this fix. So when we are protecting them, we are protecting them from something as harmful as alcohol, cigarettes, and all sorts of things. So we must remember they are very addictive. And when we talk about mental health, the other aspect of mental health is being active, good sleep. When the light, even on the screens of us of the smartphone, actually keeps your activity of your brain long after you've switched off. So that's why it's not even good for them to sleep with the phone in their room, because if they sleep at 11, their brain is still functioning beyond 11, and then they have to get up at 5 or 6 to go to school. They have not had enough sleep. So that is the one aspect. Then we talk about exercise. We know that we have an obesity problem right now because children are sitting down watching TV on smartphones, on their PS, and they are not moving whatsoever. Before, that time would be spent outside playing for longer periods of time, increasing the dopamine that they need, giving them the health that they healthy exercise that they need, and keeping them very healthy. But we've moved away from all of those things. So when we talk about mental health, we're talking about good sleep, eating healthy. That also has gone out, and we have to look at all of those things in totality. So it's not about only not sleeping, it's about not exercising, not eating healthy. And please, parents, if there's one thing we're wanting to say today, is that treat smartphones as the new drug that we are dealing with. Because this is exactly what we are seeing in children. It's meant to be addictive. They are staying on it longer and want to stay longer. And if there's any advice I could give today, if there's one thing to take home, is no phone beyond 8 o'clock must be in the bedroom. And we are talking not just phone, we are talking about tablets, we are talking about TVs in the bedrooms of children. All of those things shouldn't be outside, because we know that the biggest challenge between 12 and 2 o'clock, that's when we find children doing the most stupidest things. And also another rule is they must not take their cell phone to the bathroom. That's another thing. The bathroom is also the biggest problem. They forget that they are naked, and then they are talking to their friends who can take a picture and send it to other people. So after hours,
I think we have to role model that too.
In the bedroom, stay away from social media, because that's where the problems end up. And remember that their minds have not, as children grow, their executive function of what is right and wrong is still developing. So they don't know how to filter what they are seeing to immediately stop it. And so it just preys on them, because they are now just continuously swiping. And so that decision making is very little in children. So we can't leave it up to them to say they will do it.
Yeah. You know, Lisiko is saying something very important here, but Lisiko, we're going to come there. Lisiko is saying we are the problem. The problem is that even ourselves are addicted to our devices. And it's going to be an interesting one, because I think we're modeling the wrong behavior to our kids, and then we turn around and say, and then they look at us and like, but that's what you're doing. And I was saying to a friend that my phone is my Bible, is my bank, it's my work, it's my connection, it's my book, because now we read, everything is on this. It has been made such that you rely on your smartphone fully, because everything is in it. But let me bring Lindsay, because I've seen other there are other educators, I think, on the line who are also saying, I mean, they are seeing how it affects, school performance, and also just looking at a lot of children now requiring physiotherapy because they can't sit straight. Because remember, when they use their phones, they are sitting funny and all of that stuff. So Lindsay, please come in, please.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. I think that is one of the biggest issues. Like you look at something as simple as handwriting in learners, and they don't know that you must hold your book with one hand and write with the other. They're constantly wanting to lean over or slouch, and that is such a very big issue in terms of the development of a child, and also getting into that routine and that discipline of what it means to be in a classroom. And we're not saying that all classrooms are perfect, but there are certain things that we expect to see from a child. I mean, if a learner can't rule a straight line with a ruler, that becomes very concerning, because those are basic motor skills that we would want to see from a child. But something else that is also quite concerning is something as simple as presentation skills. And you find that learners can't present a 1-minute speech without a device. And they constantly want to look at their phone and look at their notes. And I mean, as we are speaking here, we're not reading off our notes. We might have prepared, but we understand that skill of listening and conversation. And kids these days don't have that. And it's a basic life skill for them to be able to go out into the world and present themselves well. But they know how to maybe do a TikTok dance, but they can't, converse and engage with real people in front of them. And that is something that we're having to unlearn, the device usage, to ensure that learners are actually capable of speaking to their peers, engaging with people on a day-to-day basis, and being able to respond to what somebody is actually saying, not just presenting what you want to tell the world, which is very social media. You create this ideal video or an ideal post and you send it out to the world, and only later the feedback comes. But they are having that difficulty with instantaneous conversation with somebody. They can't read body language, they can't read facial expressions very well, because they are reliant on a text format or a video format.
Sure. Oh, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, there are people who are, firstly, let me say greetings, Tabile, greetings, hi. And then, there are some comments around even the impact on eyesight. I think, the list is becoming actually endless of some of the impacts of smartphones. And I think as we think about part 2, we'll have to think about, all the various, clinicians who can actually share more detail around the dangers. I think someone is also speaking about, impact on, the sexual content that is out there. Kate, we have not spoken much about it. I think we do need to go there, and what it does, because, maybe let's have that discussion.
Let's go there. I really want to spend some time, if we can, at the end, because there were some comments about, pressure. What do we do as parents if everybody else is? And I think
we'll definitely do that at the end.
Tonight, for our part 1, we can direct our parents who can still press pause and rewind to some help. But yeah, I think that what the research has shown really is that there are 2 kind of key areas of concern. Our girls, because they naturally gravitate as social comparative brains, teenagers, they are naturally gravitating obviously towards apps like Instagram, where They are seeking perfection, and there is no such thing as perfection. We know that, but they don't. So the rates of anxiety and depression and self-harm amongst our teen girls has been rising exponentially. And the latest set of research, the biggest tranche of research we have, show that the earlier a child under 13 gets access to a smartphone, the more prevalent that rises towards, particularly for girls, anxiety and depression. For our boys, because our teen boys' brain is very neurologically wired, and we're no different to the humans that we were hundreds and thousands of years ago, our teen boys would have been using all of that, boredom itch and those that need to, as their brains are needing to be flooded with dopamine at this age, they would have gone out and learnt survival skills, hunting and going against, war against another tribe to get a better cave, protection of their women folk who would have been, the gatherers. And so in-person, first-person shooter games, of course, gaming is something that for a tween and teen boy's brain, it hooks them in because it's giving them what their brain is naturally looking for. Online pornography is another thing, because at this age, this is when, teen boys would have been going out and looking for a mate, obviously that, natural human urge to procreate. So online pornography has been a huge addiction that nobody's talking about, a massively life-changing one, that we're only seeing late into our teens and into our 20s, when young lives are crashing because they are, so severely affected. This is becoming basically a disability, this addiction. Of course, also influencing our values and our beliefs of this generation, fueling GBV. Our talks about GBV being our second pandemic. Well, if we could find ways to actually reduce the amount of adult content exposure of our youngsters, I think we will also see a huge, big impact on what our youngsters are growing up thinking is a normal sexual relationship. And the third one, which I want to just talk about, which is one we're only starting to see, is online gambling. So this is now the very new big addiction amongst our teens, which is also having devastating impact. We're also seeing students that are being given opportunities to go, get funding and bursaries and go to tertiary education, who are gambling that away. And, of course, opportunity to make good on their big dreams is being sucked away from them by Betway and Hollywood Bets and all these other online gambling. So these are the areas that we have to be really cognizant on. We've got to be talking to our children. We've got to be giving attention to what their devices are looking like. What do those platforms look like? Because they're just like the menu of a restaurant. You open it up and, is it Italian? Is it seafood? Is it what are you looking at? You've got to look at what does the layout and the landscape of that device look like, because that is where they're going. The apps that they're downloading, the places that they're going to online, is a reflection of where they're spending most of their time and what their values and beliefs are being honed to, channeled and funneled by the algorithms to believe about themselves and about others in the world.
Sure. The Lord help us. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I wanted us, for part one, because I think I don't even think it's gonna be only part two. Maybe it's gonna be part three, part four. No, because I think it's a huge, huge, huge problem. And I think the more we speak about it, and the more we raise the awareness, and the more we really zoom into some of the dangers that people may not even, sometimes I think we underestimate the impact. Because we see all the other aspects of it that we think, okay, it should be not so bad. But I think as we expose the real impact of these smartphones, not only on children, I think it's also having an impact on young adults and also even on us. We may not even be aware, but we think because we are old enough to handle it, we think we are coping.
I'm not.
But
I'm 55.
I don't think so.
My phone is a problem for me. So, I'll put
It
my
is
hand
a
up.
problem for me. I'm putting my hand up also because, emails are coming. You do everything on your smartphone, and your kids can see you on it all the time, and it's a problem. But I think for part one, which is today, we do want to say what can be done. I know we'll still have maybe other sessions where we unpack what we can do, but maybe in the 10 minutes that's remaining, I do want to leave people with some hope that it's not all doom and gloom. There is still something to be done if we jointly agree that there is a, because there's the FOMO issue. It's almost like if I don't do it, and which is the main thing that parents do, it's like if I don't give my child the smartphone, they'll probably kill themselves because they don't have a phone, So let me rather give them the phone, but the phone actually can also make the child, worse off from a mental health point of view. So it's a bit. It's a bit tricky, but let's speak about it. Some of the things that are out there that parents can start looking into.
So that's exactly what the Smartphone Free Childhood movement is about. It's about bringing parents and educators together in a non-judgmental way to say we're all learning, okay? We're learning information every day. And when we made decisions 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, whenever it was, we did it with the best that we could, best information we had. But now the research is coming out and it's showing us what the true story is. And so if I'm the only parent that decides that I'm going to delay giving my child a smartphone until high school, and nobody else does in my child's peer group, all the other parents, just carry on with whatever decisions they were planning to make, then it's only my child that's left out. Because the reality is that it's just, automatically becomes the way that teachers communicate. As I said, it's not the way that they have to communicate. We do need to traditional forms of very important for their milestones in the development. So if I have in my child's class, if maybe there's 25% of us, so that's considered a tipping point, 25%. So if 25% of us all agree that we are going to delay smartphones, and that's not so bad, we've got a quarter of the class who are not yet on smartphones. And so we are starting to build a tribe. We're starting to use our strengths together. So that is what the Parent Pact is about, that we've developed. We've got every single primary school in the country loaded up onto our website. So a parent can go in there, find their child's school, then go into the child's grade, and they can pact that they're going to delay a smartphone until high school. And the beauty of this is that every month they get an email and they are basically getting the list of children in that school, in that grade, for whom pacts have been made. And so we're building a tribe. We're building a group that's saying, yes, we believe in this. And if together we all move together in the same direction, we're going to shift this norm. And it's not so bad anymore. It's not so bad to say no, because when your child comes and says to you, I'm the only one in the class, you say, well, actually, my monthly email says that there are at least 10 of you or there's 12 of you. And actually, I'm going to speak to your principal and suggest that we have a talk at the school and we see if we can get a few more in your class and we get a few more in the other grades. And suddenly we've got a community where play dates are about playing. They're not about all the kids bringing their devices and they're sitting on their phones or sitting on their iPad. They're actually playing. They're actually having fun. We don't have to worry about sleepovers and what they're going to be exposed to on sleepovers, because sleepovers now are device free, because we're all of the same mind that what we're doing is very important work. We are delaying. We're not saying no forever, but we're saying no for now. And at the right time, in the right place, then our children can have access to these devices, which really are, like Ferraris without brakes.
Yeah, Kate, so there are some people I think on the call where, I mean, at their schools, devices are still being used, and I think there isn't any restrictions. I mean, I know at our school, my son's school, where I think you've done some work with the school, and other schools where you have done some work, that there've been change of policy in those schools. And it would be interesting to find out if a person is like, at my school, we would like to have smartphone-free childhood initiative running. Is there a way that people could reach out? How would they do it to just get some of this stuff going on in as many schools as possible in South Africa?
Absolutely. So and I think there was the message earlier, and I think Bukle also mentioned, we've got to talk to parents of as young as possible. So we are talking into the pre-primary school communities now, because we want those parents and caregivers to understand that, they need to be prepared for the choices that they're making and decisions. Obviously, primary schools are a big cohort, because we want primary school parents to be coming into our pact to join this. And then we were getting into high school, because primary schools often tend to be smartphone free. But when we get into high schools, our focus there is on building phone-free schools. So we've got a phone-free school register. Some of the schools that we were talking about before we came online are all joining and starting to sign up. But they are also recognizing, and this is one of the other big shifts, global shifts, and one of the biggest growing ones, is that what schools can do at least is give children a break from those notifications. Within an hour teaching of an average high school pupil, their average is 197 social media notifications. Can you imagine if you're trying to teach a high school class and they have their phones in their pockets? They are getting 197 notifications in that hour. Their minds are going all the time to what's happening. They can't wait to say, please, sir, please, miss, can I go to the bathroom? Because they want to check what's going on. So this is giving them such an important break where learners can concentrate and teachers can teach.
Yeah. So there's an interesting one here that says, there are so many devices that connect to the internet, and your child might not have access to a phone, but they do have access to the internet via smart TV or even Xbox or PlayStation. I see it in my home as well.
Everywhere, even your fridge. Everything is internet connected now.
Yeah, no, I think like we said right at the start, that this topic is gonna be a series of conversations, because we have to really get to the depths of it. So I think
lots of edtech, Nolo, lots of edtech coming. Edtech is our other big thing we've got to talk about, is how, when schools and primary schools start requiring parents to buy iPads, to buy laptops, or they're using them in school, what is the school's responsibility? And we have to safeguard with those, and they cannot be the parents' burden when they get sent home. When a parent is trying their very best to hold the tsunami back.
Yeah, someone is saying, these days, kids don't even have to buy textbooks. Everything is online now. It's e-books, e-textbook. You don't have to go and buy a physical textbook. Sure. We do have 2 minutes left. I'm gonna just give Dr. Toba and Lindsay maybe a chance to also just weigh in, and we'll wrap up, because we are going to have another session where we go even deeper and also just understand the real. We're gonna bring a psychologist as well. We'll want to bring us an OT, just to share what they are seeing from their side. There's a question around ADHD, and we know that sleep deprivation does present as though you have got attention deficit. So we're not sure what we're seeing, if it's true ADHD or it's because of other aspects of just the impact of smartphones. But we'll bring an expert to actually come and unpack that for us even further. So Dr. Toba and Lindsay, just to close us off.
So Nolu, I think just to give back to power to parents before we leave, that's important, because we have overwhelmed them about the harmful effects of social media. My take-home message to parents is, what can we do now that going forward, like today and going tomorrow? Firstly, if you've got a child less than 10, please refrain from giving them a smartphone unless they are sitting next to you and for an hour and not more. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you even have to switch off your Wi-Fi for your children to not have any connectivity, then parents, please do so in the evenings. Even if you have to switch it off for yourself as well, it will help everybody. So take the devices away. Let the children's devices, from phone, iPad, all of those things, be in your bedroom during the evening, and they sleep with you, and they only get them in the morning. That will help with the sleep. Another thing is, please teach them about social media. Teach them about the stranger in social media. They are not their friend. Teach them about not sending pictures in any form, in their social media. That's Snapchat, that's Instagram, all of those things, to refrain from sending images of themselves. Teach them about the bully, how to come to you. And there is a lot of things that have been done. Have a contract with your teenagers there about when we are giving you the phone. It's not that you own it. It's still our phone. We have every right to check it all the time, what's going on in it. So have those contracts, talk about what it is to be responsible for them. That's just my take-home message. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Buhle. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thanks, Doc. I think mine is just a parting shot on, I think, the contract and the conversation with our kids.
I
Parents
think your line is a
often,
bit.
parents often
Okay. No, I'm saying your line is a bit unstable. I don't know if you can try again. Okay. No, I think it's fine. Lindsay, it's okay. I think it's fine. Maybe Kate, then, in closing, if people want to know more about the work that you're doing, and you know, we can't thank you enough for availing yourself for this conversation. But if people want to know more about the work that you're doing, maybe just to direct them to the website, and also how
Thank
can
you.
people
Yes.
be
So,
part
our
of this?
website, our website, www. Oh, sorry, we're talking. www.sc-sa.co.za. Pop in there, go and have a look. You can join our community. I'll pop the link to join the communities into both of these live streams. And have a look. We'd love to have you with us. As I said, we are an NGO, so we're all volunteer run. It's literally fueled on the energy of our core team of volunteers. So any support we can get from your community would be absolutely incredible. But go in there. If you're a primary school parent, go and have a look at the pact. If you're a high school parent, go and have a look at the wonderful guides we've got of how to have a conversation with your school about going phone free. We've got petitions if you want to support us on age restrictions for social media and for regulations around phone free schools. So there's something for everybody to come in and have a look. And we're building our resources all the time with more tools and tips. I can only reiterate and support what Buhle has said. She's spot on. So all of those are fantastic things to take away from tonight. But this is a conversation of hope. I'd hope that although we have talked a lot about the harms, we also are saying, what can we do about it? And let's come together and let's take those practical steps and let's support each other as parents and as educators.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I would like to thank you as our panelists, and thank you, Lindsay, even though you were struggling, that at least we had your voice. You weighed into the conversation. Thank you, Dr. Tobert. Thank you, Kate. And thank you to our IT guys for making it possible. And thank you to the leadership of the church. Really, this is about social relevance. We need to be, engaging on some of these very important topics as a church. And lead these conversations as a church. So I'm really grateful that we are able to have a platform like this where we can have these conversations, and looking forward to part 2, and to God be all the glory. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you.